Okay, I am here with Demetri Kouvalis, and he is arguably the co-owner, Demetri, of the Patio Theater?
Owner.
He is the commandante of the Patio Theater, and we are doing this as just an opportunity to highlight the Patio Theater within the community, but also kind of as a follow-up to the successful Kickstarter campaign that took place over the last 6 weeks, you'd say? 2 months?
Yeah.
Demetri?
Yeah.
So before we start about the success of the Kickstarter campaign and talk about specifically what it is, give a brief overview of what transpired for the 10 years before you opened up the Patio Theater back in May of 2011.
What happened before the 10 years?
Yeah, no, actually what happened during those 10 years, the sacrifices you made and the labor that took place to fix this place up.
Yeah. Well, the 10 years that the theater was closed, it was a time where my father kind of decided that he wanted to retire because at that time when the theater closed in 2001, he was 66 years old. So at that point, he did his run for the theater. He worked here for 14 years. So he had enough, and I was just about to start middle school, I believe, and then I had my whole middle school, high school, and college life to go through. And my father wanted to focus on that and sent me to a good school and so on. So over those 10 years, not much has happened besides his partners leaving, so he had to buy them out, and then since he had to buy his partners out, he couldn't necessarily fix the theater back up again if he ever did want to reopen it. Mm-hmm. So the theater stayed in our family the whole time, but he didn't have any major plans to reopen it anytime soon. So once I graduated in May of 2010 with a business degree in marketing from UIC, there wasn't a for sure idea that I was going to reopen the theater. I still had plans to work for corporate America downtown at a marketing agency, but with the economy being as it is, I couldn't find the right job for me, so I decided that, you know, I looked at this place. It's a part of my past, and it's a part of my history as well as my family's history and the neighborhood history, and I felt that I had the power to revitalize a very unique destination in Portage Park and in Chicago with the help of my father and my sister. So at that time I convinced my father that if he could put down the money, I could do most of the labor with my sister, and that I would reopen the place and run it myself. And I think he always had a plan to kind of give this to me later in the future if I ever chose to run it. So he was positive about the issue and about the decision that I made. So starting May of 2010, we worked on the theater along with my sister and my father, and we repainted the whole place. We restored the seats, we renovated the floors, we put in new carpets, we did the bathrooms, we did basically every wall and every unique detail was repainted with the exact colors as it was originally. So a lot of work went into restoring the theater. I wouldn't say renovating, more of a restoration process. Along with trying to get papers cleared by the city to reopen as a movie theater. That takes a couple months. So all in all, took about a year of work to finally reopen the theater in June of 2011.
Talk about the capital that you don't have to get specific with the numbers, but let's talk a little bit about the amount of, I guess, time, effort, capital that it took to just get this place up and running again.
Sure. One of the main issues why we closed down in 2001 was because the air conditioner broke, and we were lucky enough to find somebody who could replace the part of the air conditioning that broke back in the past, so we didn't have to replace the whole system, which would cost over $100,000. So what we did was we replaced the one piece that was broken. So along with that and all the materials, basically it's materials and the cost of paying people that did work that I couldn't do. For instance, doing reupholstery for the seats and the carpet and plumbing and such like that. So after all of those expenses, we came close to $80,000 or $90,000 of our own personal family money. And that was with myself, my father, and my sister working here basically every day, 8 hours a day, for free. You know, doing as much work as we can to get it up and running as quickly as possible. And it was definitely a labor of love, and most of the people see it when they come in here.
Give us a sense also of the complex that the theater, the auditorium, it lies within a larger complex, a huge building of apartments and storefronts as well.
Yeah, the theater is part of the Irving and Austin corner, the northwest corner of Irving and Austin, which includes 17 apartments, 6 storefronts, and 6 offices, along with the theater. Now the building is in my family along with one other partner, but the theater itself is run by myself. And so yeah, we're part of a big corner of the Portage Park neighborhood. And you know, I came in here, I already saw Portage Park growing over the last 10 years, slowly but surely. And I thought that, you know, if I could bring some new, fresh, young ideas to this part of the neighborhood, I could not only, when we opened the movie theater, we could also bring in new businesses to help promote Portage Park. And so since we opened, we actually had many other businesses open as well. Coffee house, thrift store, restaurant, amongst other things. So a part of opening the theater was also to bring back life to this part of Portage Park, which I believe we're slowly doing. And with the recent fact that we got money to get a digital projector, we can make this an even hotter destination spot.
Now, you officially opened in May 2011,
June
right?
3rd of 2011.
June 3rd, 2011. And at that time, we did a kind of a podcast to kind of walk through this wonderful theater. And the next time we get together, we're going to do the official walkthrough, a visual walkthrough of the theater as well. But we went through kind of the detail, the beauty of the opening space, the atrium area. When you walk through the theater, there's also the proscenium here, which I think you can see a little bit of through this shot. Just the amazing detail and work that you did on this stuff is quite spectacular. You didn't really even use a consultant to do this stuff, it looks like. It was basically you and your sister trying to match up as much as you could, the detail, the color, in terms of the paint. Give us kind of an understanding of that whole process. Well, the historic preservation process.
Yeah. Really, the only thing close to being to have a consultant when it came into restoring the place was my sister is an artist, so she has an artistic eye for color matching and contrasts and such. So she did have her input on what colors to use, which would go best with what, and how close we could get to the original colors. So we did have that, but I entered this not being a painter at all. I'm not a professional painter, but I believe for a place like this, if you have the passion, it just takes dedication and patience to restore a place like this if you have somebody else helping you as well. So I think this is probably the best definition of labor of love that you could get. And after hours and hours and weeks and months of painting and trying to get everything right and as unique and original as possible, that was my plan, to make it as original as possible. We're not adding anything, we're not taking away anything. People who haven't been here for 50 years and they come back, I want them to see that, you know, this is exactly how it was before, maybe a little more cleaner. But the restoration process, we didn't want to, luckily over the 10 years we didn't have any structural damage as well. My father took care of the place over those 10 years that we were closed. So we were lucky that we didn't have to do any major structural reconstruction. So that helped as well. So I was fortunate about that, and it was really nice to see that a project like this, even though it's daunting, could be done.
Describe the architectural style of this auditorium.
Well, you know, most theaters have their own architectural style, and I guess the closest kind of style you could come up with for the Patio Theater is a Neo-Pompeian Italian / Spanish Renaissance Art Deco style. So you have lots of gold and red are prominent colors. You have crests and statues and faces on murals, for instance in the atrium or on the arches of the coves in the auditorium. So lots of Spanish and Italian Renaissance type art, and I think that's something that makes us different from other art houses as well.
It's atmospheric. It's very similar to the Southport Theater, the music box in that sense, but it's much cleaner. It's much more intact, and when you've got those cloudscapes going by along with the twinkling stars, it's quite an experience. I don't think there's any, other than the music box and this theater, there's any other types of these types of theaters in Chicago.
No, I mean, there really isn't, and that was another reason why I wanted to open up the theater, because it's sad to see these theaters close down or get torn down, and then, you know, condos being put up. So it's about culturally preserving Chicago the best you can, and I think there has been a small renaissance in that recently with, you know, the music box has their own niche and they have people and it's popular. The Logan recently renovated their theater. Theirs is an old school type theater, and the Patio, which tries to maintain its originality as best as possible. And, you know, people have come to me saying, you know, did you ever think about, you know, splitting the theater in half for 2 screens? And that would be more economically feasible probably in this type of business, but I think what makes this place unique is how big the auditorium is and how big the screen is, and that ambiance adds to the effect of your movie-going experience. And I wanted people to realize, oh, this is really one of the only places in Chicago where we could get that experience.
If you don't mind, talk a little bit about the real estate bubble and the offers that you were made to sell the building at some point. I believe you said back in the middle of like 2005, 2006, and what transpired?
There were about a handful of people who were possibly interested in buying the theater or the building itself, the corner. You know, we had people such as CVS or Walgreens. We had some interests from larger entertainment conglomerates like Jam Sessions and Live Nation, possibly buying the theater out for whatever, I'm guessing concert use, but they never really fell through. And my father never really had, he named his price, which, you know, if people were interested, then fine, but I think he named it high enough where he didn't really want to let go of the place, you know, unless it was someone who would preserve his idea of how the place should be run. But there were a few offers, but I think my father always wanted to keep it in the family for as long as possible and let me have it in the future if I so chose to reopen it. So I think it was a good idea that we maintained it in the same family for as long as we could. And
I just want to get back a little bit to the CVS Walgreens element in this that you brought up. Would the request have been to purchase the building and quite literally tear it down for your prototypical Walgreens CVS corner store with a parking lot?
Right, exactly. So I mean, obviously if you want to open up a Walgreens or CVS, you'd have to have a parking lot as well, and so they would need a good amount of space for both of those things. So most likely they would have to tear down the theater and the building to make that kind of space for this kind of corner. And it's, you know, the Irving Austin corner is a very busy corner, so it would be profitable for them to do something like that in this area. But yeah, it would ultimately end up in, getting rid of a cultural aspect of Chicago that you'll never get back again, because movie palaces like this were built so well back then, so sturdy and with so much imagination and creativity, that you don't see it anywhere nearly as close in the newer theaters, even the new megaplexes that cost $50 million to make. They try to recreate that kind of magic, but it's something about these old style buildings that you can't replicate.
Now, the theater itself, the way that it currently shows movies is just a regular analog film format.
Right.
And that's been in existence since the beginning of time of motion pictures.
Right.
When we did our walkthrough back a year ago on the kind of the podcast, you kind of walked us up to the control room where you show the projector and where it comes out out to the screen and everything, and it's a fascinating space. There's also a massive spotlight up there as well, you said weighs a half a ton or something to that effect, that has not been moved because it's so heavy. You're now, talk a little bit about what has transpired in the movie industry in terms of moving from analog film to digital film.
So Hollywood is transitioning from traditional analog 35 millimeter to digital for multiple reasons, but one of the main reasons is that they're saving close to $1 billion a year in the cost of film production and actually creating these film strips. In
film film is made of celluloid.
Yeah.
What is celluloid?
It's a type of plastic.
Yeah.
And
Kodak was making it.
Yeah.
I guess they were the main creator of it.
Right. And it's still a fine way to make movies, but obviously everybody's trying to cut costs and make things easier as they go in the future.
Yeah.
So going digital would be the easiest way for them. Where it costs Hollywood between $1,000 and $1,500 per print of a movie to create, it might cost them at most $50 now with a digital hard drive. So they're saving lots of money that way, and they're kind of pushing towards this new, everything's going high definition. Your TVs are going high definition, your music's going high definition music, so they also want to show movies in high definition and kind of set that trend for the future.
Now, from your perspective, how much of an impact does an analog film have in your viewing pleasure versus a digital film?
There are definitely film enthusiasts or cinephiles who obviously can tell the difference between 35 millimeter and digital, and most of them don't like digital just because you could see that kind of fakeness. But to the normal viewer, I don't think they see that big of a difference. They might see a clear picture, which definitely there will be a clear picture. There's a better resolution and such, but it's just the way of the future. Just like how there was VHS and then they came out with CDs and DVDs. That's just how it's going to be, and I think people are just going to get used to it eventually, and that's going to become the norm. But we do still plan to use 35 millimeter print films of older classic films, just because it adds that extra taste to the movie.
Just to give everybody a sense of Portage Park and Jefferson Park, there lies 3 incredible movie theaters within the boundary of Portage Park and I would say southern Jefferson Park. There is the old Gateway Theater, which is now the Copernicus Center. There's the Portage Theater that lies at 6 corners of Irving, Cicero, and Milwaukee, and there's the Patio Theater that's here at Austin and Irving. It's pretty spectacular to have 3 incredible movie theaters in such close proximity to one another. Easily, if you've seen the Gateway, it's quite spectacular. It's very similar in terms of the detail that the Patio Theater has. It's not atmospheric. It's a much larger space as well. Again, the Gateway is located at is it Milwaukee and Lawrence, around there?
Yeah, right.
Where the Copernicus Center is. The Portage Theater has undergone some renovation as well. Dennis Wolkowitz has done a spectacular job of bringing that theater back to kind of a multi-use type of venue. Then they also show digital movies as well. And then now there's the Patio Theater that has been a spectacular asset to Western Portage Park. So we're incredibly lucky to have such wonderful spaces here. Talk a little bit about now going forward, the deadline. What was the specific deadline again for the motion picture industry in terms of getting all movie theaters to start using digital projection?
Well, a year ago they said 2014. A couple months ago they're saying 2013. So it's cutting shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
I'd say probably by the end of this year, January or December, 90% will be digital. And so if you want to do 35 millimeter, you're going to have a really hard time to getting a print or getting it much later, maybe right before it comes out on DVD. So it's almost impossible to continue doing analog, which hinders all movie theaters, but more so the independent movie theater owners than the megaplexes. So everybody is forced to comply to the new rules that Hollywood is putting on these theaters.
You know, it's interesting you mention that, because when CDs became the new norm for music, it seemed to dominate the entire music industry. But yet they still continue to, as kind of a subgenre, continue to make records,
yeah,
albums,
yeah,
vinyl. You don't see that happening going forward, everything being mostly 100% digital. Literally the film, the analog film will go away completely.
Yeah, so much so that they're even making digitally remastered prints of older classics into a digital format, which I don't think they're gonna just, you know, throw away the old film as once they have a digital copy, but they're going so far as remastering these old prints for digital. So yeah, I mean, at least for newer Hollywood films, and not just Hollywood but independent films, for any type of filmmaker, whether you're an amateur or a professional, it's all going to be digital because it's just cheaper, it's easier to create, and yeah, that's going to be the future. I don't think going forward that any new film soon will be in the traditional 35 millimeter. Okay,
let's talk a little bit about your perspective, your individual perspective on and the potential hardship of you not being able to go to the digital format. What were some of the things that you were most concerned about, and the things that really, I think, jump-started your Kickstart campaign to try to get the digital projection in the theater?
Well, when I opened the theater, I always wanted to keep this theater as a neighborhood movie theater. Movie theater being the main thing, because when this place was built, it was always built as a movie theater. There's no backstage, there's not a big stage for vaudeville or plays. It was accompanied by the pipe organ, silent films, then the talkies came out, and it was just always a movie theater. So I wanted to keep it, and I will continue to keep it, primarily as a movie theater. And since that's the case, and I don't want to just show classic films, because there are already theaters that have that niche, yeah, where they only show classic films. I want to be that one theater in Chicago that's an old style classic theater like this, but still shows new movies on a huge screen. So, and I think people really like that as well, especially in Portage Park. The options of seeing newer films is becoming smaller, with Norwich phasing out. They're going to have to be forced to go to Skokie or Niles. So I want to keep the people coming into Portage Park, watch their movies in Portage Park, and getting outside people into Portage Park. So it was all about showing these new movies in digital in an awesome place where you just don't have the chance to see new films in a place like this. And I think that adds to the effect and the experience of coming to the Patio Theater.
Let's talk a little bit about the Kickstarter campaign. When did it start?
It started at the beginning of June. We chose to do it in the summer just because school's out and people are more, leisurely, and they have more time to go out with their families and such. So we thought it was a good time to promote the Kickstarter that way. And when you want to do a project through Kickstarter, the maximum days they give you is 60 days. So I thought, okay, I'll do 60 days, and then they let you set up a realistic goal for yourself.
Is this coordinated through Amazon?
Amazon is their payment plan.
Okay.
much like other websites like eBay has PayPal as their payment plan, Kickstarter uses Amazon. So I had to come up with a realistic goal. And I chose 50,000 because I had ideas of maybe doing 30 or 40. It wouldn't cover everything, but at least it would get me ahead. But I chose 50 because I'm lucky enough to be in a densely populated city where I could raise awareness faster and through a wider audience. So I knew that I had people in TV and newspapers and online internet blogs that could help me raise this awareness. So I chose 50,000 because I thought that would be reasonable, and luckily it was. And so I'm very grateful that we were able to reach that goal.
So you had, how much time remains in the campaign?
As of today, there's 6 days. So when we actually reached our goal 8 days in advance, which I wasn't expecting at all. It was great to see such a huge boost in just a few days of people really coming out and supporting the Patio Theater. So that was really nice to see.
Let's talk a little bit about the kind of the payment options that were available through Kickstarter for people to donate.
Right. So you know, they call it pledging, and I call it pledging too. You know, donating not so much when you're doing it for a for-profit business or for a project. So in order to, since it's not a tax write-off, we want to give something back to the people. So basically what they're doing is they're kind of like prepaying for something in advance. So when you pledge, based on what tier you pledge, whether it's $10, $20, or $100 or more, you get something back. For instance, you get free popcorn and pop tickets, a t-shirt, your name on a plaque, a tour of the theater, or if you donate a little higher, it would be a screening, a private screening for you and your friends, or a big package of tickets. So you definitely get something back that's worth close to the money that you put down, and that's just a thank you for us for helping us kind of get an infusion of energy that we needed in order to get a digital projector as quickly as possible so we could stay a viable movie theater.
I want to pay a particular shout out to some organizations in Portage Park that kept the word going, and one in particular was Friends of Portage Park. Jennifer Dianovsky, I'm a Facebook friends with her, had been sending out constantly reminders on how much was being left on the balance for the pledge, and that was, I think, helpful. I think on my end when I contributed and my family contributed to the effort. There was also some other community groups who've been available or who've gotten the word out. Talk about how important the community has been to this effort.
Well, the community knows that the Portage Park is one of the biggest anchors for Portage Park, and the reason is because we bring in lots of foot traffic and outside patrons to Portage Park, people who haven't been here per se in the neighborhood ever. So we want, as the theater business, to also educate our patrons that you have this, you have this, you have this in the neighborhood. Why don't you check it out and then come back in the future? So we realize how important they are to us, and they realize how we are important to them. So we've had great support online and through social media from local businesses such as the Coffee House Regulus or Thrift and Thrive, or the Irving Austin Business District, or the Friends of Portage Park, the Portage Park Neighborhood Association. They really realize how important we are to them and vice versa. So it's really, really nice to see the community backing a place like this and wanting us to succeed as much as we want to succeed in order to keep this area alive and energetic.
One thing I didn't ask you about that I think is just as important as the kind of the digital projection portion. What's your existing auditory sound component for the auditorium right now, and what will it be moving to as a result of this campaign?
Right now we're still using the same sound system we've been using probably since the 80s. We're doing a center mono speaker, which is fine in an auditorium like this because the way the auditorium is built, it does very well with sound.
And you say center mono speaker, would that be behind the screen itself?
Screen, right.
Okay.
So it does fine, but we definitely want to improve the sound as well, just because with the digital film, they add 5.1 speakers to the film itself. So if you want to get all the dialogue, the music, and the action all at the same time and not being jumbled up or hard to hear, you want to add extra speakers. So with the funding, it covers not only a digital projector and all the components that it comes with, which is a server, a stand, a lens, and everything, exhaust system, lots of things that involve just a digital projector. We also plan to install a new screen. This screen that we use here is at least 35 years old. Wow. And we want to put in a new screen which will in turn make it brighter and more vibrant. And on top of that, we're going to add at least a left and a right speaker, which will be connected to our center speaker, and we hope to put at least 2 to 4 surrounding speakers along the walls. But for sure, we're going to add a left and right speaker as well.
So it's all equilibrated kind of nicely.
Yeah.
There's all the sound is kind of perfectly balanced throughout the auditorium itself.
Right.
Okay. I think the next question is really you're 6 days away from the end of the campaign. You've already reached your $50,000 goal. What are you going to do at the end of this campaign? And what I know there's also a benefit concert that's coming up in the end of July or the third week of July, and then you've got benefit screenings as well. That's actually taking place literally right after we get done with this interview. Hoop Dreams, I believe.
Right.
But after all of this is done within 6 to 8 days or whatever, what's the next steps from your perspective?
Well, there's a lot of work to do. Yeah. I already have scheduled meetings for people to come in to give me better bids on the projection system, and we hope to install the system in by September. I wanted to do it as soon as possible, but it's really up to the scheduling of the installers and the sellers of the digital projector system. So we're hoping to put it in by September. I also have the wonderful job of contacting all 750 backers who have helped me through Kickstarter in order to get them their incentives as quickly as possible and as organized as possible. So I have that as well. And we're going to continue our normal movie schedule up until our digital system is in, and then once that's in place, we have many more awesome things we're going to do, such as we plan to be part of film festivals. We want to be part of local independent films, screen the films here. We want to start a Patio Theater film club where we choose a great movie every 2 weeks, and then after the movie we discuss it, kind of make it like an intimate fan club. We also want to start advertising local businesses on the screen. I think that would really help out the businesses in getting their name out there, and lots more plans. So with a digital projector, it brings much more variety in the type of things we could do with a space like this. So that really helps out as well.
Well, it's spectacular. Congratulations again, Demetri. This is quite an event to have surpassed the goal 6 days ahead of schedule. I'm assuming the money's still coming in up until that point,
right,
which you can still use.
Right.
And I think everybody within Portage Park and the Northwest Side is looking forward to seeing this. You've also gotten a lot of media attention. Just talk a little bit about kind of the how attractive or how much attention this theater has gotten over the last year since you've opened it.
It's really great to see that everybody appreciates a place like this. So we're getting some great publicity from TV stations, from radio stations, from popular publications, and internet blogs that follow, you know, either Chicago architecture or film enthusiasts who see that we're open and we're trying to do something with the theater. So it's really great to see so many people back the place up, just because it is unique and they want to see a place like this succeed. And because of their help, they really help push out the awareness, which is really all I asked them to do, is if they could just help me spread the word that not only are we open, but we're faced with this issue that I really don't have much control of, and we need help in order to stay open. We don't want to reclose just after being open for a year. So I thank all those guys for helping me out with what they've done, and because of what they've done, lots more people in Portage Park and in and around Chicago have have been able to pledge on Kickstarter. So I also want to thank everybody who has pledged. It was really awesome to see that we could reach a goal so soon before the end date, and so many people were supporting us and telling their friends and family that this is what they were doing. You know, I mean, there were stories that I could not believe. For instance, there was a group of kids who created a lemonade stand over July 4th and managed to create over $100 worth of sales just to help out the theater. So it's really great to see that so many people support the theater, and that because we did reach the goal, we plan to stay open for many, many years to come and for many more generations to appreciate.
Demetri Kouvalis, congratulations again. This has been John Kane, Portage Park resident, and we will be meeting again with Demetri to do finally a visual walkthrough of the space, as well as kind of the outside portions of the auditorium, and as well as the control room finally. And then hopefully we can do another walkthrough right when the digital system comes in the fall.
Sure. Thank you.
With that said, take care.